I welcome you all and thank you for joining us today. Again, we've got about 40 of you. I know Pam Benoit, I believe, just joined us. I'm going to give Pam a shout out because Pam's been a person that has been very positive on this and has been able literally to bring the VICA folks I hope by next week we will be doing online. I've been working with Matt Brewer to be able to provide some online licensing requirements through this format and how we're doing it. So Pam, stay in touch with us, but I believe Matt's getting the necessary hardware in-house on Tuesday of next week, and by the end of next week we'll put out some notices as far as that training goes. On the construction side of training, we are going to be ramping up to offer the IMSHA training, some of the flagger training, and some of the traffic control stuff. Also web-based, online, just like this. That will also be starting next week. I know we got a fall protection course on for next Tuesday, and I know we're working to put a IMSHA course on for next Thursday. So stay abreast with us and we will keep you informed. The text hotline has been burning up, and that's great. I know we've been able to address a lot of concerns. The biggest concern today, I think, one of the bigger concerns today has to do with our employees crossing state lines. The state yesterday afternoon set in motion the close down somewhat of state lines. I know they put up the message boards advising quarantine for 14 days if you're going back and forth across state lines. I know the intent is to protect us. I will tell you this is not successful. This whole protection piece will not be successful, and this is kind of a oxymoron, will not be successful if 50 to 60% of us do not get coronavirus. And believe it or not, the protection is we're all 50 to 60% of us are going to get sick. And along those lines, that is in some sense going to allow us to keep moving. What they're trying to control is that rate of sickness. And that's literally what they're trying to control right now, is the rate, so our health care providers can actually handle the influx that's going to come with it. But again, our text hotline is 793-5659, and we are responding to those in a very timely manner. Our call hotline, if you want to call us, is 802-229-9189, and that is burning up as well, and we're going along pretty normally, as much as normally can actually be. I want to give a shout out today because we're recognizing and have been recognizing the local distilleries that are helping us through this mad time. Mad River Distillery has announced that they are actually also creating hand sanitizer. So if you're looking for hand sanitizer, give our friends at Mad River Distillery a shout out there, and they will certainly help you out. And again, the governor's order for lack of travel across state lines is impacting all of us. And if you have employees going across state lines, very clearly, if you have employees going across state lines and coming back, you either have to house them on the other side of the river, or you have to quarantine them when they're back home. And it is a 14-day quarantine. Our goal and our communication has been very targeted and very specific. We are planning on going back to work on the 15th. We are planning on going back to work on the 15th. The hiccup in that plan has been the president's acknowledgement that we're going to have to stay down till the 30th. We are working internally to move construction and construction-related work from a critical definition to an essential definition. And based on our outside exposure, based on things, we are making some headway, a good deal of headway, in trying to get that defined. We believe being outside, we can still maintain the protocols, we can still maintain what's necessary, and we can keep moving forward. I'm going to hit on a couple protocols here before I'm done, but I'm going to start off right now with some chamber notes and some different things. But before I get started, does anybody, this is a loaded question, does anybody have a quick question or two they want to ask right off the bat? Okay then, we'll get going. I will tell you I should have I will tell you that it was released this week with the coronavirus emergency loans, the best document out there right now that I've seen, regardless of what organizations, and again I'm befuddled why other organizations across the state haven't geared up to start to deliver some of this information. But I will fill in for the Chamber of Commerce for a moment. The best piece out there right now and information is coming through the U.S. Chamber of Commerce on coronavirus emergency loans, small business guide and checklist. Remember that, one, we should be filing for these. We should be trying to take advantage of every resource we have. And I'm going to talk about that a little further. But it probably has been a while since any of us have written a business plan or have looked even at our own internal business plan. And we should be rewriting that and rewriting it with the idea that tomorrow's going to be better. And now is a time that we should look internally at our business, how we can strategically change or enlarge our business to provide for a larger group of services out there. We should be looking at that internally. This is the worst day we could possibly have, and if we can start to look forward, if we can start to look at our business itself and what needs to be done so that 6 months from now we're bigger and better than we were on January 1st, there's going to be funds, there's going to be help, and strategically we can be positioned to do so. We each have employees back in our office that are working from home, from whatever, that are looking for work, looking for guidance in what they should be doing. We should have internally our own COVID strategic team, and that strategic team starting to look at specifically where are the infrastructure improvements going to come. And I'm going to reference John Connor. John, you've been great at hospital building and hospital stuff. we should be looking at what's that next phase of hospital building look like. There's $500 million worth of education building that was declared had to be done back in January, that all of a sudden we're gonna see some federal funding to assist us in that. We should be positioning for some of that. There's an unbelievable amount of wastewater highway funds that are gonna be coming out, that we should be positioning ourselves, our companies, and we should have a very strategic plan on how to address those. But for the time being, there is a payroll payback loan that's going out to assist you in keeping people employed during this time. We should be acquiring those documents, applying for it. It's going to actually help us pay back not only the paychecks that we're issuing, but the infrastructure costs or capital costs to keep our operation running. And there is a payback to it on the other end. The questions you may have, what you want. Are you eligible? Frankly, most of us fall in that. Fewer than 500 employees. An individual operates, so they're going to allow both sole proprietorships, independent contractors, and self-employed who regular carries any trade or business. Our groups all fit in that piece, and we should be applying for those and getting them going. I know I was talking with the Northfield Savings Bank, the people at Northfield Savings Bank. They're ramping up their lending processes right now to be able to address these. I know that we should be getting in on the front side of this and not waiting till the 15th or the 30th to actually do it. You should be talking to your bankers, your lending agencies, the SBA, whoever it is, to start this paperwork piece running ASAP. They will ask, and this is my second part of this, but every one of them are going to current economic, make the loan request necessary. They will ask about some type of application process, and as an independent contractor, sole proprietor, self-employed, we'll be looking at certain documents, those documents being actually coming back into a business plan with some sort of marketing strategy and some sort of goals over the next 12 to 18 months on how you're going to put this business back together. It's something, it was funny because I was talking to Dave Markowski the other day, and Dave was saying, you know, we've never been in this situation before. I've never thought about a business plan. I've never thought, how do you do that? And we're going to help you. We're going to take a look at a couple different ideas and how to get this done. How much can I borrow? Again, you guys, it can't exceed average monthly payroll costs, not to exceed $10 million. I don't think we'll have a problem there. You can include your payroll costs, included payroll costs, and this is important, salary, wage, commission, similar compensation, your group health care benefits can be included in there. Payment for, if you told everybody we're going to take our PTO now or our vacation now, they will include those payments that you made for that. I'm sorry about that. Let me mute that thing. I don't know how to do it there. The sole proprietorships, again, sums of total payments, and there's also part of this thing will allow you to incorporate your normal business operating costs during this period of time. your normal overhead to keep your doors open during this period of time. And will the loan be forgiven? Borrowers are eligible to have their loans forgiven. Again, it will depend on borrowers eligible for loan forgiveness equal to the amount the borrower spent on the following items. And again, this is the key list. This is what you should be applying for at this point in time, the key list. And the key number is during the 8-week period, beginning on the origination of the loan. And I believe from conversations I had last night that they're going back to, it's either February 2nd or March 1st. And I can't tell you which one it is because I'm still confused about all that. But it looks like, and I believe it is, your payroll costs, interest on the mortgage obligations, rent on a leasing agreement, and payments on utilities to keep your office open. And then if you tip employees or whatever, will be in there. And the amount of the loan forgiveness is calculated above, is reduced if there's a reduction in the number of employees or a reduction of a greater than 25% in wages paid to employees, meaning they are urging you to bring everybody back after this is over. If you reduce your workforce after this is over, then your loan forgiveness is going to be shallower. And that again, I think that is one of the better documents out there on this. What I've been able to learn and what I've spent some time doing. So what I will do right now is quickly open this up. If anybody has quick questions, I can try to address those quick questions. I do see Kevin Camp has his hand up. Kevin, you can lead us off, man.
Yeah, hi Dick. I also sent this to you in the chat, but in calculating our payroll costs that they're asking us to determine monthly costs, do we include the company's FICA contribution as well as the employees' FICA contribution in that? Well, the employees is in their gross payroll.
The employees is in their gross payroll already, and I believe, yes, you include your FICA contributions to that whole thing as well, yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else with any questions on that?
One other question, Dick, if nobody else has it. What about, I didn't notice if it was on there, workers' compensation costs?
Kevin, I believe, and I've asked back and forth all these questions. I'm not trying to, so you guys all carry notepads with you and those little notebooks and stuff, and you write all this stuff down back and forth as things go. I've never been one to carry a pad of notepads, and all my notes are literally on a pile of paper plates. Whether they were taken as I was picking up a pizza or at Depot Pizzeria over in Northfield, or they were sitting at my household table, it seems like my wife has always supplied me with a large supply of paper plates. I believe in answer to your question, Kevin, the workman's comp, from what I understand, is a normal payroll cost, and that is built into your funding, yes. I'd have to look on like plate 5 though.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Does he have pizza stains on it there?
Oh, hold on.
That's nice.
Okay. It is funny though, the guys down at Depot get upset with me because I'm running through paper plates as I sit there thinking in my head. Any other questions on any of that? And I am trying to keep up with chats here, but I'm not seeing them. So we will move on to my next subject. Quickly, economic recovery within this piece. In times, this was put out through a group I'm working with on March 27th, that we as contractors, we as a group, should be looking at 2 time periods when we start to assemble our recovery process. 2 separate time periods. One being a 6-month time period, and the other one being somewhere out there, I keep saying 18 to 24 months. If we hit that 24 mark, we're in a very good place. But both sides of it start to spell out to us on a short term how you should be planning, and you should be planning for your business reentry as it is, what has to come back in, and you should be planning for the financial resources that are available, as well as, and I said this earlier, and everybody tends to get a little stiff when I say this. I believe with my heart that we're going to be back to work between the 15th and the 23rd. I believe that. I also believe, having seen different plans and having different conversations, that the plan for re-entry is actually going to go in reverse from the way things were shut down. So where they shut down restaurants and pubs, and then they shut down the retail shopping, then they shut down the barber shops, and then they shut us down, it's going to go in reverse. And I think the contractors are going to come out during that time period. 2 or 3 weeks later, the barber shops are going to open. 2 or 3 weeks later, you're going to see the retail places open. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, you're going to see the restaurants open. I don't believe we're going to see a stadium full of people for the next year. I don't believe that. So based on that, how are we as an industry going to communicate and understand our field team? How do we do that, and what does that look like? And we should have that in I hate to shut that off. How does that look, and what is that communication system? And you should be looking at, in order to vitalize that, what that business reentry piece looks like, and what financial resources are going to be necessary to gear your team up for that. On a long-term basis, I believe we should be positioning ourselves to be better than we are today. And we should be looking at how to target specific areas that we can increase production, how we can increase our use of what we have to serve a larger basis out there. Again, what is that, and I'm saying, what is that diversification that's necessary to make that happen? We will show resilience, as we always have. We will show resilience. What I just talked about was the phases of recovery, and you should understand, I believe that to start sometime around the 15th or the 23rd, 15th or 23rd, I believe that to happen over the next 2 months. I had somebody call me yesterday and say, we always run our Memorial Day gathering. Do you think Memorial Day gathering is going to happen? And I said, no, I don't. And I don't think we'll be at that stage. But I do believe during this intermediate stage, which will last 4 to 6 weeks, we will be doing construction at that point. Essential construction will be out there versus the critical shutdown that's going on right now. And then I do believe over the long term, we will grow our businesses along that line, and we have to plan for that. Challenges to this: rapidly changing, unpredictable from one day to the next. I never imagined that the president would declare a 30-day shutdown. Again, his declaration is through April 30th, and that's going to steer some of what I'm saying, but I believe the governor and that team, if it is safe to do so, will let us back out sometime between the 15th and the 23rd. We are having a meeting with AOT at noon today specifically around those elements, and as well as we are providing guidance across New England now for different areas. I know from conversations we've had, New Hampshire's starting to tighten up, and they're pretty close to going to a lockdown similar to us. And I heard Massachusetts last night is on that brink. So I think it's just going to happen. What happened last night or yesterday with the governor's interpretation is we're definitely going to have a supply chain disruption, and we're already starting to feel that. So we'll keep you abreast of those items. Immediate measures that we should be looking at. You guys, if you haven't already, you should be looking at extending your grace periods for some of your payments out there, trying to establish some sort of fund between yourself and the bank to support the businesses, and expanding, making contact with your local economic development authorities, and items like that. Economic development out there, each one of our EDCs is now working to better communicate government and business needs, and trying to identify the resources that you will need in order to continue along this line. The post-disaster small business assistance, we can see this already starting to kick in. I will tell you, in phase 4, they are discussing right now some bridge loans, and they are discussing some grant programs to help us through this. And again, the federal resource is going to be the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loans, and that program to assist us. Post-disaster support strategy coming out of SBA right now, and coming out of accd.vermont.gov. Resource identification, sharing information across the board. There is out of DOL a great deal of worker assistance, and we're looking at how to keep everything else rolling. Crisis communication, you should be having communication at this point in time with the business community, those people you normally work with, letting them know that you're going to still be here, that things are going to happen. We should be adjusting our social media and our websites. It's a great time to start to adjust that, to look forward, again, 30, 60 days, what it's going to look like and how we keep people going. Any other updates or restrictions, your recovery plan, we'll talk about that in a second. The way forward, information is going to be key between yourselves, your employees, and your normal providers, the people that supply you with services and or equipment, tools, whatnot. Information is key. We've got to work together, and then most importantly, be adaptable. get ready to adapt to the situation and make it work. RestoreYourEconomy.org is out there. RestoreYourEconomy.org is out there. I want to take us to another place here for a moment. There is, and this is preparing to go back to work, we are going to need to have some type of sample plan for our workers and our people out in the field. This will be on our website, and again, it's a company safety plan, takes health and safety into account, how we're going to handle job sites. Everyone is going to be required to have some sort of company protocols. If we are going to go back on the 15th or so, we are going to have in place some safe work protocols that are accepted by the by OSHA, accepted by the Commerce and Community Development folks. We're going to have, and AOT, we're going to have those in place. We've got a sample. We've got one that you can copy, paste, base it for what you want. The plan is based on information available from the CDC and OSHA right now. We worked with AGC National and a couple other groups to actually put this together. It's being used right now in Texas, Oklahoma. There's a half a dozen states that we've worked with. And again, it identifies the responsibility of the employers or employees, their responsibility in it, clearly identifies what needs to be done. It identifies if you aren't feeling well, because again, we're going to get back to work and we're going to suffer another peak in this. So don't be fooled just because we go back to work that all's safe. We end up going back to work, we will in essence create another peak. And every time they send another group back to work, we're going to see another peak within this. The only difference between then and now is that we can actually withstand that peak threshold where we can't withstand it all right now. Company instituted following protective measures on all job sites. We've spelled out some general safety policies and rules for our job sites. In-person meetings will be limited. Employees will be encouraged to stagger breaks and lunches. I'll tell you, one of the neatest things I actually heard over the weekend was the way, and they were bragging about it, the way Gillespie Fuels has started to stagger even the start times, where they normally just started at 7 o'clock in the morning sending their fuel trucks or maintenance teams out. What they're now doing is staggering those, starting at 6:30, and every 20 minutes another team comes in, and they start leaving at 4 in the afternoon, and every 20 minutes a different team leaves. And I know this is going to come as a surprise, but they actually eliminated that half hour or so of intermingling among employees, and they're realizing a more productive workforce at this point in time. So we might start looking at that. We take a look when we go back how to stagger breaks and lunches across the board. Where we designate different lunch areas instead of just one lunch area. Limit the use of co-workers' tools, cleaning tools. Limit the need for N95 respirators. Divide crews and staff into 2 groups wherever possible, or multiple groups, multiple teams across the board. We've put that together. The workers entering occupied buildings and homes, construction maintenance activities, what is our exposure and how do we limit that exposure? They should be doing some type of evaluation of the specific hazards that they're addressing or that are present. employees should ask other occupants to keep a personal distance of 6 feet away minimum. Job site visitors shouldn't be happening. Job site visitors should not be happening at all as we go back. And then site delivery should only be permitted in properly designated areas, and we should have little or no contact with those delivery people. Gloves, eye protection, N95s aren't going to happen, and we're working through that. And then we should have some system to keep the job site clean and disinfected. Everything from the job trailers to the restrooms. What does that look like, and how should we be reacting to those? We did put them in here. They should be cleaned and disinfected at least twice a week. Hand sanitizer dispensers are always filled. Vehicles should be wiped out, cleaned in some way, and then the company will ensure that any disinfectant shall be conducted during one of the following household disinfectant and alcohol diluted household bleach. And we put that in, and you can add to it however you want. We did reference the different areas, and then we identified within this job site exposure situations. So we have addressed those pieces for you, and I will take a moment right now to remind you all that Waitsfield Distillery is now offering hand sanitizer. With that being said, I will open you up for a couple questions, and then I want to move on to.
I mean, we hit all the criteria. We're going to bring everybody back. We're going to, we should definitely take advantage of that. We should, as you and I talked about earlier, we should be, conserving all the cash we have in every way possible.
Okay, so now I've unmuted you so we can all hear you. If anybody has a question, we can take a question on what I just.
It covers all of that. It covers our, 5-year contract. It covers all the payroll expenses plus rent plus utilities.
What's going on?
Yeah, I doubt that. I would imagine that there'll be.
Okay, I don't know who's talking right now, but we can all hear you.
The question is, when do we bring the employees back? I don't want to be premature and say, we're all back on payroll and this doesn't go through.
Okay, we got rid of them. I'm sorry about that. I was trying to open it up for questions. If anybody had questions on this safety side. I see Greg Tatro's hand is up. Greg, how are you?
Hey, good, Cal.
Good. How can I help you?
Well, we got a question on people that were laid off that we wanted to get back this week, and now we can't. So they're on the regular unemployment, and I know with the COVID-19 unemployment was so much higher, we're kind of trying to figure out how we can, get them on that schedule instead of the old one.
So, Greg, I'm writing your question down on my paper plate here for Lindsay, and I will have a conversation with Lindsay this morning about this question in itself. And what we're trying to figure out is those people that were previously laid off, we'd like to bring back so that we can all take advantage of some of these offerings that are out there. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's right. It's been a long winter, and they're probably getting a little low on funds, and we'd like to make sure we can take care of them to the best of our ability with the help of the government.
Right. No, let me try to spell that out, and I will get back to you hopefully before the end of the day. You're on a paper plate now, Greg. That's pretty good.
That's good. Get some pizza on there. I'm getting hungry.
Anybody else with a question, if you raise your hand, I can address it, hopefully. Okay, Kevin? Kevin Camp, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question about trucking. Truckers are bringing in materials from New York. Are they considered, under the 14-day quarantine? How do we handle that? And how do you handle trucking outside of the New York and back?
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you the same answer I got. Was any of this material or pieces that are non-critical, that trucker, if they got out of the truck at the site they were, that trucker should be quarantined for 14 days. Actually, he said must be quarantined for 14 days. So if I were doing that and I was trucking things in and out, I would have a protocol that says those truckers or those operators do not get out of their equipment, do not stop at go. They continue a round trip and they come back and get out here.
Okay, or vice versa, if a trucker is coming in from New York, they don't get a truck?
That they do not get out of their vehicle, they don't have any contact with us, we offload them and we send them back the other way. I'll tell you what's happening.
Okay.
I'll tell you what's happening at the checkpoint. There's 24 checkpoints that have been determined for entry into Vermont. I believe there's a team of 8 people gonna be monitoring the 24 checkpoints. Again, this is from what I've been able to cull from conversations, but there are a team of 8 that's gonna be monitoring that. They're gonna be writing down license numbers. I know, I hate to say it this way, I know if it's a white plate, they're probably gonna have interaction with the monitors. I know if it's a green plate, multiple times over the course of a day, they're gonna have interaction. Okay?
Thank you. Yep.
Anybody else with a question there? Gotta raise your hand. I'll look real fast. Deborah Wright, I see you had a question. I'll turn your mic on here. Go ahead, Deb. Deborah Wright, I know you had a question.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
In order for our company to save money, we had to release all of our non-drivers so we couldn't put them with the others. That's one thing. Secondly, in order to preserve cash flow while we have a very small trickle of work because we mount power, all of the company staff has now applied for unemployment as laid off. We're still working, but not collecting payroll checks.
Okay.
In order to keep the business afloat with the monies. We've applied for a disaster loan. I haven't tried the payroll loan yet. I'm going to do that. I just thank you for that information.
Okay.
But will that affect our being able to get other assistance? Because we did that in order to preserve funds.
Deb, I will look into that, and I think, I hate to say it, but I think it is going to affect that payroll payback assistance. But let me look into it and I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, you know we clearly haven't collected anything yet. It's going to take weeks.
Right. No, and this actually, this paycheck payback thing is supposed to be able to turn around inside of a week. So it's a quicker, faster piece. But let me check on that. And then I see that John Casilla is asking a question. John, how are you today?
Good, thanks, Dick. Appreciate you putting this on. It's been informational. I just wanted to ask that you share, I'm sure everybody would like to see it, but the responses that you get, if you could share with the group, particularly Greg's answer, that's one that we're challenged with.
So, John, I'm as much as you're challenged with that question, I'm challenged with this technology to get you that information.
You know how to get a hold of me.
So, yeah, we will, as we get these answers, we will get them out to the whole crowd. It'll probably be coming from Matt because he's our IT specialist right now. But we will, these group answers, we will get to you.
I certainly consider myself tech savvy, but I struggle to figure out how to raise my hand, so.
There's a reason for that. I see Gray Ricker has his hand raised. Gray? Gray, you gotta turn your mic on.
You there?
Yeah?
Okay. To follow up on that trucking question, I want to make sure I understood you correctly. Did you say that we can truck material out of this state, not get out of the vehicle, return, and not be quarantined? Because that's big for me if I can do that.
And Gray, you and I have had numerous conversations on this, but if you look at the interpretation, you could in essence do that, yes.
Okay.
You couldn't do it every day, because once again, I told you, there's 24 checkpoints, there's a team of 8 monitoring the different checkpoints. You couldn't do it every day, but I believe if you had a protocol written out saying this is what we're doing and this is how we're handling it, you could do that, yes.
Okay, another question. You said that you, the AOT, you have a meeting today, I think you said.
Yes, at noon.
Are they in communication with New Hampshire DOT, Maine DOT, Mass DOT? Because with what Vermont did obviously affects all the operations in those other states. And as soon as we got the notice, we sent out an email to everybody, and the phone has just blown up because now we can't send crews to, the other states, obviously, unless we want to ship them over there till end of the month.
Right. And
I'm
yes,
hoping that they're all discussing this.
yes, they are. I know yesterday there were 2 or 3 large contractors in New Hampshire that accepted this notice as I'll say an exemption to contract terms. One of them down at Dartmouth, another one up in Laconia. I have not heard whether the transportation agencies have accepted it yet, but I will give you confirmation on that before the end of the day.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay? Gray gets a paper plate with, what the hell? Okay?
You got it.
Thank you. Anybody else? I have one more thing I want to cover before we sign off here. Anybody with a raised hand? No raised hands. We're going to go back to where I was with one last item, or a couple fast items that I put together, because again, I started this off saying we have probably not been as good at coming up with business plans. We will be posting out there a business plan for the small construction company. Again, I just said small because that's what it looked like, and those business plans should have some type of planning network included in it. There's a bunch of different items. I'm not going to dive into it chapter and verse, but what I am going to do is tell you that there's a very basic outline and I filled one out in about 3 hours for my Crumbs Corner Contractors. We do Vermont tenant and commercial improvements. The key piece, biggest piece of this being we should have an executive summary on the work you do, the work you hope to do, how you're going to do it. You should define objectives, goals, strategies for achieving them, your business description, status today, and by today my status would be January 1, not today, but January 1, and your outlook for achieving your goals and what that looks like. Identify your management and ownership. Identify some type of marketing analysis. And again, what is your marketing strategies? And then work with your financial team to put together the normal balance sheet, profit and loss, that type of stuff. Again, we all came off a fairly good year last year, so our financial plan should look really good going into this, with the outlook that there's going to be a mess of funding out there, that if we position ourselves right, we can take advantage of that and still have a very positive financial plan going into next year. And again, I filled one out. You're welcome to do your copying and pasting and modify it to look like yourself. We did that. And I've got those documents out there for you. The other thing I did, which goes back about 40 years ago, some of you will remember your local JC program used to have a chairman's planning guide. I would pull, and we'll post it out there, I would pull a CPG, chairman's planning guide, and I would hand it to my team, and I would say, our primary purpose is how we're going to position ourselves, what is the strategic elements that we can hit, and where should we be moving. And you have a 60-day or a 30-day or a 15-day or a 2-hour timeline to fill this in and tell me how we're going to get there. You all have internal office people, staff that you have trusted with your business for years. Whether they're at home, whether they're in the office, they have the bandwidth right now to pick this up and put you together a plan for us all to be able to follow over the next 15 or 20 days and make us more successful going forward. We will have a copy of that out there that you can all take and review. And there's multiple other documents that we have that if I can help you with, we will be including a couple toolbox talks out there, a questionnaire and tips. I know Matt started last week. We're going to need this information. Matt started a survey, I think it was on Monday as a matter of fact. Matt started a survey on how many, I'm just doing this off the top of my head, but how many employees you have, how many you had to let go, what your business looks like going forward, and how important it is to you that we start on the 15th. As I told Matt earlier, our push as a team is going to start sometime around the 9th or 10th, that we're going to start reaching out, we're going to start pushing back, and our goal is to safely get everybody out there and working on that 15th date. So with that all being said, we do have a bunch of information. If you are looking for information or you're looking for help, please, our COVID text hotline is 802-793-5659. If you want to text me, I do get back to you generally within an hour. If you want to call us directly, and the lines are being answered all the time, It's 802-229-9189, and we will address your concerns. At that point, I will open this thing wide open.
For back.
Now we're back. Everybody's mic is live at this point. Everybody's mic is live at this point, so don't in your office call me an asshole till we hang up. Anybody have anything you want to comment, ask, or move forward with?
Hey, the hand raising, is there a way to individualize?
What do you mean?
Well, it represents the name calling you were just talking about.
Oh, okay. I can't figure out any of this, Jason.
Hey, Dick, it's great.
Yes,
Another question.
yes.
I know some states are recommending safe passage letters for all your employees to carry. Do you anticipate we're gonna need one in Vermont, because they'll probably open up to essential first, hopefully construction is, but, you know, will a safe passage letter be required? I think I got a copy of a mock one here.
Would you send that to me, please?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Dick, I do want to say, we appreciate, all the information you bring forth to us every week or twice a week. It's very helpful for us to, navigate this odd path that we're all in.
Thank you. Hey, as a highlight, I'll tell you, we're going to have a guest speaker with us on Friday at 10 and 2. We've got Lindsay Curley appearing. She won't come in; she's afraid of us, but she is going to be appearing for about 10 or 15 minutes after the start of the program at 10 and 2 on Friday. So we do have her coming in for that. That might help with some of these questions and answers. So have your, I mean, if you want to email those, if you have questions of Lindsay or ACCD that are not too, that are very general, if you sent those into us, we can have her prepped. If you want to just surprise and shock her, you can do that. But we've only got her for about 20-25 minutes max on Friday, one time at 10 and another time at 2 o'clock.
Hey, Dick,
Yeah.
Mark Nicholson here.
Mark, how are you?
Any fear? I'm doing well, thank you. Is there any fear in the group of the $600 being added to the guys' unemployment? Most of the guys will be making $1,000 or so that we can't get them back. Is there any discussion of that, or am I?
Mark, it's huge. It's huge. I did the calculations myself, and I was thinking I could take off through August and nobody would miss me.
We'd all get laid off.
Yeah, but hold on, Matt's yelling to me. Go ahead, Matt.
So my understanding is that when you give your letter of layoff to the employee, you're going to indicate that there is a return to work date. That return to work date, unfortunately, you can't give them because we don't know what that is, but General Counsel over at DOL says that you can say that you've set a return to work date, which is attached to the governor allowing people to come back. So they won't have, if they decide to not come back to work, then they lose their option for unemployment.
Okay. That answer that, Mark? I think it's a question we all have.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I hope you all were able to hear that. Anybody else with a question?
Dick, I would assume that would work the same way. I'm waiting for my attorney's response back on that exact question. But if you implement the payroll protection program and start paying your employees immediately, when you have work ready to go, they have to go.
They have to come back.
If they choose not to go, they can't collect unemployment. There'd be a waiting period for them.
That's correct. And that I did.
There's a gray area there still, so I'm still waiting to get a final answer on all of that.
But that was one side of the question that I knew we addressed, and you are correct in your interpretation there. Anybody else?
Yeah, Dick, Jason.
Yeah.
Some of the kickback I've seen come is I get paid more on unemployment than I do my regular check. I don't think under the Payment Protection Act, there was anything listed in there that allowed us to give them a bonus during the period of time to cover that. You know, it's just trying to deal with how this operation works. No different than dealing with Davis Bacon and the county splits the job. This is kind of making some hardships for understanding for the employees.
Correct. I can't disagree with you, and I have no answer for you.
Yeah, there's still, the SBA is still working on the guidance on that because obviously our employees have, make different amounts every week due to hours they work and wages, and how do you calculate what that base salary should be during the shutdown?
Correct. Anybody else? With that, we're going to sign off here. I appreciate y'all coming in. I appreciate the time you're giving us and the support you give us. We'll be back at another group this afternoon at 2 o'clock. And again, I remind you next Friday, or this Friday, 2 days from now, Friday at 10 and 2, we'll be back here live trying to give you some updates, as well as we'll have a guest appearance by Lindsay Curley to assist us with some of those questions. Thank you guys all for coming, and we'll see you later.
Thanks, Dick.